Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody around the world. Welcome back to another One Piece video featuring your boy, Marco the Phoenix. Let alone a very spicy deck profile for OP08, which is a little early here for the channel, but we might just dive fully into it here soon. I do have a couple more lists I want to get over for OP07, but without further ado, we are going to dive into this list, show you what I'm cooking up here, let you guys know what this leader does, and hopefully get you guys excited to play Marco here in OP08. Now, without further ado, if you guys are new around here, new to this leader, and are unaware of what Marco can do in the current metagame, now that RP Law is banned, this deck does have an opportunity of shining, considering the fact that Law allowed you, was able to bottom deck Marcos, and you couldn't use their abilities now. Now with him being gone, you have opportunities of keeping cards on board, especially these two, and getting long-lasting effects out of them. Being able to have a staple unit on board to swing each and every turn is pretty strong. Unless you run into another blue deck like Boa or Doflamingo who decide to Gravity Blade you, but that's a different story. In any case, Marco in himself, if you attach a Dawn to this leader, you're allowed to draw one card. You can do this each and every turn of your turn, and when you do, you can choose one card in your hand to put either on the top or bottom of your deck, and then you can give one of your opponent's characters, only characters, not a leader, minus 2,000 power, which is pretty strong. So essentially, you're getting an Otama effect for one Dawn, and you get to draw a card with a recycle, technically. So you do got to keep that in mind. Does the exact same thing as this, except for you draw +1, and you can just switch a card around in your hand, which is pretty solid. Now, speaking of which, we are also running 4 Otama, 4 Jozu, and then we sub in 2 Kingdu. This comes out in OP08. This is just another 2K counter that can be searchable with Izo here, which is pretty good. Now, most of the time you're not going to play this on board to get any sort of value. It's just going to be a 2K counter. There might be an occasion where you want to drop this down and you can reveal 2 cards in your hand that are Whitebeard Pirates, and he'll gain 2,000 power to the end of the turn. But you're also giving your opponent, information of what cards you have. So normally just a 2K counter. Now, we also keep the same exact cards that we normally would have in pretty much every single Marco list. These might fluctuate in ratios, but generally speaking, you're going to be running 4 Marcos and then 4 Marcos. They both do different things. This allows you to pop 3,000 power or less on board when you play this card, and you could bring it back from the trash if it's KO'd by discarding one event from your hand, which is pretty good. And it doesn't have to be Whitebeard related. It can be just, any event. Whereas this one here, once this card is popped and your life is at 2 or less, you can activate the ability to bring this back from trash as rested. Alright, so to keep that in mind. But you must discard a character type that has Whitebeard Pirates in its name. So, both of them have ups and downsides. They both do different things. The upside to Marco is you can play this off of your leader ability. So, what that means is you can give something minus 2,000 power, then drop a Marco to pop something if it's a small blocker. This isn't going to get around like a Queen or a Kid, for example. It will if you incorporate more Dawn, such as like a Marco and then a Otama, and then into this Marco. Sure, but that's quite a bit of Dawn, and you're not really killing anything that's threatening on curve with this card most of the time. Now, we've also gained access to a brand new card in OP08, such as Rayleigh. Unfortunately, he's quite expensive. He is an 8 cost. He's not going to kill very important cards on board on curve. He allows you to give something minus 3,000 power, and then another character 2,000 power. So he chooses 2 characters on board once he hits the field, minuses 3, minuses 2. Then he will KO up to one of those characters that has a 3,000 power or less, which is nice, right? His other ability, this will continuously last until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that minus effect stays there until your opponent's end phase of the next turn, which is pretty good. So you can give this to like a Kikinojo on board. You can bring it down from a 6 to a 3,000 power, and then you can end up popping it with Rayleigh's ability, but of course they heal a life, right? For example. Or you can just minus 3, and then it'll stay 3,000 power until your end of your opponent's next turn, if that's what you want to do, which is kind of interesting. The upside to this card is Sanji also makes an appearance in this deck, which you guys should remember Sanji from Doflamingo variations, Boa variations, and where it first started in Queen. Queen was a deck that very much utilized Sanji into things like Yamato and Katakuri, which I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with by this point. But, for example, in a blue-red deck, we don't gain access to Yamato. We also don't gain access to Katakuri. So we also lose out on being able to heal ourselves or remove a character on board. So this deck is a little bit more explosive, I want to say. It's aggro base to a point. But at the end of the day, you are also not as defensive as decks like Queen. So you don't get to utilize that healing mechanic that allow you to stay in for the late game. But you do have access to Sanji being able to kick off a new gate on the top of your deck to give your leader 2000 power until your next turn. And sometimes that's enough. Just sometimes. I'm not going to hold you guys and tell you that Marco is fantastic, he's amazing, he's going to be a tier 1. I'm not going to tell you guys that. This man does struggle into a lot of matchups in the current format. So out of the box, out of OP08, this is going to be a variation that you guys can put together. There's going to be numerous different builds that you can do, but this gets much better once the structure decks come out and we gain access to the newer cards, such as Ace, for instance, and some of the other Whitebeard Pirate cards. So we will gain access to this in Structure Deck 15. You'll gain access to some of the Whitebeard variants, which are going to be really, really good. Newgate in himself. This allows you to KO other characters on board 5,000 power or less. But that's there. This is now. Again, the deck will get much better once all these new cards drop. Currently, out of the box, Marco's a tier 3 in my opinion, maybe, at best. He does do some very, very fun mechanics in this list. And again, it can be built in a couple different ways. But being able to play down a Sanji to kick a new gate on board is quite terrifying, especially if you're at 2 or 3 life by this turn. Most of the time it's probably not going to happen, but sometimes you can be at 2 or 3 life. And if you are, and you can sustain yourself for the following turn, you're going to have a good time. The downside to this is you're spending. It's similar to Queen, like I mentioned before. Whereas in Queen, we have a lot of triggers that we can just do Queen's ability and put them on life, right? We have a lot of different mechanics that allow us to do that. Whereas in Marco, you are also spending all of your Dawn in the late game to play a big body on board. So for example, if you're going into your 10 Dawn turn, right? You have Sanji, Newgate in hand. You put a Dawn under Marco. Marco would take that Newgate, put it on top of the deck. You play down Sanji. Sanji kicks this on board. Keep in mind, now you have 0 Dawn. You're a 7k leader, great, wonderful. But your Radical Beams, your Guard Points, whatever you guys are playing, you can't access because you have no Dawn. So you have to utilize your 0-cost events here to keep yourself alive, and or any 2k counters that you may have by that point. Now do be mindful, we only run 10. And a lot of other cards in this deck have no counter power, be it the Sanji, the Newgate, the Rayleigh, often not some of the events here, but some of these events you must be utilizing, such as the 0-cost event, the Sanji's Peel-Off that allows you to draw into your cards. That way you guys are able to draw your Newgates, your Sanji, set up your plays, because we can't search this in this build setup here. There's not a blue searcher yet for the Straw Hats. Of course, you could run Nami in this variation, but then you would only be searching Sanji and your Radical Beams here in this list. But either way, this is a build setup in which I've been cooking up here as of late. I enjoy it. I think it does have its ups and downs. There are some other cards that you can include into this list, and I'm sure you guys are wondering, like, you know, why aren't I running XYZ? So, again, I come at this from a Queen perspective, whereas Doflamingo and cards like X-Drake were ideal for Queen, along with the Blue Ace also is another ideal card for Queen. And Marco, I'm not necessarily trying to set up the top 5 of my deck here. Because again, as a Queen mechanic, you're taking one of those cards from your deck and putting it onto life to utilize that trigger. And Marco, I'm not necessarily doing that, because we don't have very many trigger cards that we are utilizing here in this build, other than like 2 Fire Fist and then 3 Gravity Blades. So it seems a little bit counterintuitive, whereas you get a lot more use in Queen than you would here in a Marco variation. But you can use the Doflamingo to set up some plays in the late game when you guys need to be searching around for Gravity Blades, or you guys need to make sure you see your Sanji come up, or looking for pudding, things of that nature. It's quite small, but overall, we're going to dive into a bunch of games today. I'm going to try my best. Don't crucify me too much, alright? This is just my choice here. If you guys have a different build, want me to try something else with Marco, by all means, leave it down in the comments below. How about your fellow community members, what you guys are running? I'm very much excited to play Marco once we gain access to the new structure decks. But without further ado, let's dive into some games. See you guys in a split second. Let's go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're going to dive into a bunch of games today. Come at you guys playing with Marco in OP08 into an Along, which probably isn't going to go in my favor, to be honest. And speaking of Along, yeah, I'll be cooking up a list here. I'll be doing it in OP08. He has gained access to some new cards, not necessarily for Fishman or East Blue, but he's got access to some new green stuff in the Mink and some yellow cards. I think that might make this leader pretty fun. Not necessarily like super viable or super like tier 1, tier 2, but not yet at least. But we are going to be diving back into East Blue in a future set here very soon, so maybe. And then I also want to give you guys a Sanji Zoro list that are going to be utilizing some new stuff in OP08. That is another deck list that's going to be coming to the channel here very soon, because I'm tired of running into it. I think it's very fun to play. But let's dive back into this game here before I get lost. It's very hard to play Marco, and I've noticed this, like play Marco and pretty much not miss a beat. I think this leader, just like playing Queen, but is a lot more, you gotta be focused. So I'm gonna try my best here. In any case, I know how Along works, and I don't want to take a lot of these attacks early game, considering the fact that this man can just constantly throw down bodies from hand and or get triggers off life, so that does kind of suck. Gee, thanks, zero cost event. Very unlucky for him for us to get 2 Sanji's Pilafs this early in the game. So hopefully we'll be able to at least sustain ourselves to the late game here. This is one of my major problems playing Marco. I feel like that's nice for next turn, maybe. I feel like a lot of the time we don't have a lot of early game threats, and sometimes decks that can go wide early can really just run over us. We do well into things like Gecko Moria if we can stick a Marco on board early game, but other than that, any deck that goes wide or can swing very tall like Yamato and Katakuri, it's very hard sometimes. It really is. Please just give this to me. Okay. I was for sure he would give me Kikinojo to heal a life. Now that kind of just messed up the rest of my play, because we have 5 Dawn here. I probably should have just swung 6 into it, but I don't really necessarily think that matters. I didn't think that he would counter out for this. I could still give him the Otama into the Seaquake, but then we couldn't play Marco down. And I think having Marco on board here is what we're going to need to survive. I think if we do the Otama Seaquake, we lose out. It's going to be awkward with 1 Dawn floating over, but I figured he'd give me the life, that way he can get another trigger. So, did not see that coming. Oh, we might be able to hold out, considering we have a huge hand advantage here. We have a lot of counter in hand still, and we have removal for board if we make it that far. Or we have a lot of Whitebeard Pirates in hand as well. There's Onami with Banish. Okay, we definitely have to counter this out. And then we can use the Marco to block the Banish Okiko, or Kikinojo. That wasn't even English. So we give you the 0 cost event, we can get rid of the 5 cost Marco. That board is something fierce. We have to block. Nope, we can get rid of the Seaquake here. Yeah, I'm aware I could have Seaquaked the Nami in the following turn, but I get it. I'd rather not, though. So we go up to 9 Dawn. If only we had a Sanji here. Interesting. We could Rayleigh and then pop the Sanji or the Kikinojo. I think popping the Kikinojo is probably the better play if that's what we're going to do. Or we can just Gravity Blade, which gives us more Dawn, and then hopefully we can pop the other 2 bodies in. Let's play Rayleigh down instead. I think this is the better play. This way this gives us a big body on board going into the following turn as well. And then hopefully we can just run Marco into the Sanji and he'll let it go. Let's do the ability here. Ooh, okay, that's nice, that's nice. So we should be able to survive next turn no matter what. We have the counter in hand with a Rad Beam. I can get rid of the Marco, or you can put Newgate on top. 2, 4, 6. Yep. Okay. Now, I don't think he can win game here. Unless he is running Thunderbolt, or some sort of removal. Which he could very well have. Nice. No Straw Sword, no Thunderbolt. No Ezo, which is good. Yep, you got it. This here we can just bring back by throwing away the Jozu or the Marco in hand. It's probably better to get rid of the Marco, honestly. Now he'll run Nami into it. Oh, okay, alright, alright. It's just better to let it go. There's a Cracker. Because if I give 2 2K counters, it seems counterproductive than just dropping a Whitebeard Pirate and letting them come back on board. Yep. We'll do the same thing again. Marco got a lot of use this time around. There's the Newgate. So we have 2 options here, which is probably better to remove the Cracker. We can Newgate next turn safely, I think, if we clear the Nami now. There we go. Go 7 here. Then we'll hit him once for 8. Nice. No trigger, please. Never mind. I mean, it's fine, because he's at 3, we're at 2, so he doesn't get the double attack. Get the Jozu. Get rid of the Otama. I guess in hindsight, it's probably better that we did do that, because we need the Jozu to bring back the Marco here, opposed to the Otama. So it was a good thing we drew a Whitebeard Pirate off that. Ooh, bot deck this. That was pretty good. That's pretty good. I would say yellow doing yellow things, but this time around, we have very little triggers in this deck, so we got very lucky. Let's do the Newgate thing, go up to a 7K, and hope he doesn't get anything valuable here. Just let it happen. Nope. Okay. That's 1. Alright. I did not expect that. I was cool with like a Kikinojo or something, but goodness. He's got 5 down left, so that would be... Technically, he could attack with 3 more if he wanted to. We have to counter this anyhow. We can't go down to 0, otherwise he just stacks all his Dawn on leader and just goes under 10k. 5 left. I think it's better to just counter out here. Because we can take 1 damage, right? Oh, okay, never mind. Sweet. Good game, buddy. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go, diving into another one. I want to say that first game that we got to sit down and play with Arlong earlier probably was a little spooky. It definitely was a little spooky. I didn't expect him to be as strong as he was into this matchup. And the fact that he can just build board really, really quickly out of hand and or triggers is kind of a problem versus Marco, I think. Especially when we didn't see any Fire Fists. We did catch a Gravity Blade, which really helped us out, so that was nice, right? If we didn't draw that, we might have been cooked. And we got 1 off a trigger too, which is very, very lucky. But I think without the one that we were able to, you know, the hard cast, we would have probably lost the game in that scenario. But I think Marco does struggle with wider boards because we don't play a lot of bodies down in the early to mid game. We're more of a late game focused deck, so at least until the structure deck comes out, right? And then we're cooking. We're really cooking. I think this deck is going to get a huge glow up when that happens. Goes 5. We'll counter out here with Ezo. I don't want to take early game damage. And regardless, I know I'm in danger zone when it comes to the 4-cost law. So There's not really much I can do. I got Pilaf here, and I actually want to drop Pilaf just to draw more cards. So I need to see a Sanji. That way we can set up our new gates. Let's just go 7k first, and then we'll play Pilaf afterwards. Well, my bad. Never mind. I was meant to go 7, because now we don't have enough for Pilaf here, so that's going to be a little bit weird. So technically, I should have went 7, then played Pilaf down, but there's not really much else I can do about it. It's too late. That's my bad. Mistakes were made. That'll probably cost us the game here, maybe. Because he's going to law us regardless, right? There's no way he doesn't. Or Magellan, because that would suck. Getting Magellan here into this deck would feel really, really bad, considering we have to play on 9 Dawn. So, I mean, getting the Ezo wasn't too bad there. It's not really going to help us out because we already have Newgate in hand, but we'll see. No Kaido, please. Oh, he can't play Kaido, never mind. I guess he could. He can take his life and play Kaido down. Okay. There's the law. Don't take my Newgate. He took my new... No, he didn't. Never mind. We're chilling, we're chilling, we're chilling, we're chilling. Unfortunately, though, he did take our blocker, Marco, so that does suck. We got to give you a 2k there, but I kind of need them. We only have 2 left at this point. Well, minus the, whatever her name is, the I in here. We got a Sanji, which is really good for next turn. Doesn't really matter at this point. I can put back Sanji, we're going to draw him anyway. It doesn't matter what we put on life. Okay. Marco can pop the blocker, and then hopefully I can run 7k into IM here and get rid of that as well. Thank you. How to control the board a little bit if I was able to. So Luffy is now scary, because this is one of those turns where you can just drop Kaido, pop the Marco, then run the Kaido into the Newgate. Or sorry, run the Kaido into the Marco. I hope not, but he could make this play. Which it would benefit him highly here, because he would have to get rid of 2 cards in my hand to keep Marco on board. Okay, 9 to lead. Not a whole lot I can do here other than dump my hand. And I kind of want to save these counters to where I'm able to get Newgate on board. I guess we'll just take this hit. He's going to go probably 10k with lead. Oh, this is nice. Let's use this on leader. That way he can't go 10k. Come on, play your blocker down. Don't worry, I wasn't expecting the 0 cost event either. I'm sorry. It just happened to help me out quite severely here. 7 in hand. There's no way you don't have a blocker right now. Yep, there's a kid. That's fine. Alright. Unfortunately, I cannot do the Sanji thing to put the Newgate on board, but I can play Newgate down to go up to 7k. And this is where something like Doflamingo would have been pretty helpful last turn if we had him, you know what I mean? So, like I said before, I think this deck can be built in numerous different ways. I have played Dofi variations. I like both of them. So, he might just make a stay here in this deck. Of course we bring this back, but we only have one option, throw away. 11k to lead, alright. So that means he'll probably go 10k with Luffy. Which I could guard out. I could technically guard out both of these hits. Actually, let's block this one. Let's take this hit. We get a Marco, which is pretty good for next turn. If we survive to use it. Because what I can do is attach a Don to Marco, and then put Sanji, or sorry, then put our Marco on top, kick it on board with Sanji. I probably should have done that the other way around, but I don't think it really mattered there, like mathematically. We're still over this, and we have to do it one way or the other. Alright, so we're going to draw into another Marco here, which does suck. But, that's fine. Put this on top, -2 here. Let's start by running the Newgate into the kid. I'd think that he probably thought we were going to run the Marcos into it, and that way he'd have to give 3k counter. But in this situation, this should be just a given. Nice. We'll just go 6 and 6 to face. And then we'll end the turn with playing down Sanji to kick off Marco on board for a blocker. Just let it happen, you don't have it. Okay, so if we survive next turn, we win the game. 100%. If we survive. Because that man has no 2k counters at all. It looks like he gave me 3 with 1ks, so I think we're chilling. I mean, even if he removes Marco, I think we're fine with our hand here. Because we go up to a 9 with Radical Beam, 11 with King Do, and then I'll give the 0 cost to go up to, what, 14? So it doesn't really matter what he does here. There's no way you attack me. Okay, he does. Alright. Or sorry, there's no way you attack Marco. There's a Gravity Blade, which can't be helpful here. I think we have to try to go for game. Let's go 9 on lead. Depending on how he takes these hits, pretty much will guarantee whether or not he's got the counter in hand. And I think this one particularly he'd have to guard, because I'm dealing, what, 3 10k attacks? Alright. Come on. Thank you. We need to go stronger here, I think. Let's just go up to 10. He failed to guard the 9k. So that means he didn't have, you know, that many counters in hand, so maybe he has to take this one too. Nice. Alright, alright. We're doing good, we're doing good. We'll go 10k again, and then 11k with Newgate. There's no way you don't have enough counter now. Oh wow. Crazy, man. That was pretty good. Awesome. I do think this will probably be one of our hardest matchups in the format. Either Doflamingo and Boa, I think, have a really good matchup into Marco. Just simply for the fact they have access to Gravity Blade and Red Rocks. That way they can remove our Marcos and our big bodies, which we strive to be able to play down. Because if we're not able to play them down, we pretty much just lose the game. But I think Blue will probably be one of our hardest matchups in the format. Oppose of Big Mom, of course, like Katakuri and Pudding. Because there's nothing we can do about that. We got a Jozu here. We'll put this on bottom. Because our hand is pretty bad. Like, it is pretty bad. And I don't even think we're going to make it to the end game here. But we'll see. We do have a Fire Fist. So we can potentially clear a Jinbei board. There he is. Love to see him. Okay, no, we can't. This one's playing with structure decks, the structure deck stuff. Which, I would think this game would probably go a lot different if he wasn't, you know? But who's to say? It doesn't necessarily favor me all too much, you know? But I think I'd have a much better chance against him. Just want to get that out of the way before we start playing it. Start diving into this one, you know? Okay, so it puts them on top. That card is really good, by the way. It's just simply a better Dofi, except for it's a 3 instead of 5, but still, it's a 6k blocker. It's pretty insane. And I don't want to take life in this matchup early, just in case he can wall up and get down Kaido. There's not a whole lot I can do with this hand, man. I think we just have to go for some plays. Let's be a little aggressive. Or we can just Fire Fist here, right? -2. Yeah. We can -2 on the Boa. Okay, so we get a Marco. Which isn't necessarily bad, but I'm looking for Sanji right now. Put this on bottom. I don't feel like the blocker Marco is going to get any value here at all, in case he's just able to remove it. The same thing with the big one, so 7 lead. We're looking good, boys. We're looking good. Takes the hit. Cool. Now the only thing he needs to find is a Gravity Blade at some point, just to get rid of our Marcos or Red Rocks. There's Doflamingo. That is a scary board to deal with, man. I'll take that, though. Sanji's Peel-Off. Pretty good. Speaking of which, Sanji's Peel-Off drew us a Sanji into another Peel-Off. You'll love to see it. Alright. So I can attach a Dawn. And we can -2 on something here. Actually, you know what? I think we have to keep the 5 Dawn open, right? I think that's the play. We -2k on the Doflamingo, play Marco down, and pop it, and then run 7k into Jinbei. This should be the correct order, I think. Never mind. Apparently it's not. Got walled. This is a really, really tough matchup, man. Of course, more structured deck stuff. Like I said, I chose not to run with it because I wanted to give you guys something that you can play out of the box of OP08. Get rid of Marco here. He still has 2 extra attackers this turn, which we don't really have counter for. Give you the 2k. Man, this sucks. I'll take the hit. There's nothing much I really can do. I probably should have given him the Marco, but at least the Marco allows me to pop the Tish on board. But I think the better play here in this scenario is to drop Whitebeard. Or we play Marco, kill Tish, Dawn up, and then run into the Weevil. Matter of fact, yeah, that's probably the best play. That's probably the best play. I can attach 2 more Dawns safely, but I think he'll let this go in the meantime. Ezo, we don't really need him right now. But we'll put him back on top, just because we know it's a guaranteed 1k counter. Minus this here, we'll play down the Marco to pop the Jinbei. And now we can go 9k into the Weevil. And hopefully he lets it go. Please. Good. So far, I don't think we made any mistakes just yet. I think the game could still go either way. I think it really comes down to whether or not he sees Kaido. Because we don't have Red Rocks in this variation. And I'm starting to think that we need them. But I do think Gravity Blade has been helping out in a lot of my matchups with Marco today. Please whiff. Okay, never mind. You're so good at this game, buddy. Alright, 7k. Do I dare use 0 cost of it? So that's 1, at least 3 more swings he could do this turn, at the very least. We get a new gate off that, which is not bad. Yep, 5k face, and then 6k with Sengoku, I would think. Which we have to either take the damage or give a 0 cost event. Or 6, which would feel terrible, but it's better than going to 0 life, right? I definitely don't recommend doing that, but hey, it's what I had to do in this scenario. Stop it, man, with all the new gates. Tama, we'll place 1 new gate on top. We can play down Sanji to kick the new gate off of the top of the deck. Now we can start clearing board. I think we have to clear board then go face here. Again, I could be wrong. We pretty much don't have any counter in hand, so we'll see. Some of these units I should be able to take out and clear board. Now, if he doesn't have removal for both of these, I think we can win the game. mean, technically, he could just wall up and play a bunch of blockers, and he would probably win at that point. But if he can't remove Newgate or Sanji, I think we have the dub. So I need at least 4 swings next turn to at least try to go for game. He's got 4 cards in hand, so I think I could do it. Never mind. I think I'm cooked. He's got 4 Dawn floating over here. So he can still go 7-7 with Moria and Doflamingo. So he can still hit me at the very least. Oh wow, okay. I didn't expect him to do this, to be honest. This is his last attack that he can do, potentially. And of course he hits the law off the top. I don't really think it matters at this point. I don't think there's much I can do. I think the freeze that he did on the Newgate here is really going to seal the game for him. Another Sanji. Put Newgate on top. -2 there. And that's GG, boys. Because I cannot push through 3 life. I could probably get potentially 3 damage in here and we wouldn't be able to win the game. I think this is a tough matchup overall. I think without the Boa, if you didn't see the Boa here and didn't have removal for the Newgate, I think we were chilling. But we're going to dive into another one here. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we'll probably do one more game after this one, and then I'm going to dive into another deck list here on the channel. I have a lot of stuff I want to be pushing out for OP08. I'm very excited for this set, so stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. You're going to see some older decks get more popular, a lot more newer cards, and hopefully do better here when it comes to the tier list and in the current format. But decks that I'm going to be diving into for OP08s are going to be Yamato, of course. I want to show you guys some variations of Yamato. You know, I love playing Yamato here. Zoro as well as King. I don't know what his name is. Kagura, right? Isn't it Kagura? The yellow leader. Want to play him as well, but there's a lot of stuff to come here on the channel. Some people have reached out and asked me to put a chopper list up. That probably won't happen, like, realistically. I might play with it for fun, but probably not. But I do want to get into Sanji Zoro list, so stay tuned for that one as well. Anyway, let's dive back into this matchup, see what we can do here against Sabo. This should be a very challenging fight, I think, especially considering I cannot remove bodies he puts on board fast enough. I have the means to do it with Fire Fist and Gravity Blade, but due to the nature of how Sabo plays the deck, he's able to attack with lead and then kick the other one back on top of life. That way I can't touch him. So if he gets a quality trigger, it could be a problem. So like a Kikinojo or whatever, I can't really, you know. 5 lead, 4 Dawn open. Interesting. The downside is he threatens a 2k from my hands, which does suck. S-Shark. I really, really like that card. I think he's really good. Like, low-key, man. It's like what Morley wants to do for free, essentially. And he's a blocker. And he goes through blockers. That's pretty strong, man. Get a Marco. So we can't pop him right now. I mean, I can by minusing a 2k with my leader ability and then hitting him with a Fire Fist. But I feel like that's a waste. I'm only blowing up 1 body on board. I don't have anything else I can do with the 4 Dawn, so we're probably just going to go face here. Just go 7 and go 5 with Izo. Just let it happen. You don't need it. Yeah. I was going to say, don't you want to go down 2 life for Kid and Killer? Alright, let's do 5k again. Get some cards out of hand. Let me get a 2k, please. Nope. Alright, fair. I feel like Sabo is just going to bully me all game, honestly. 7k here, so he's going to be able to bounce this back to top of life. So we need a trigger to remove this. Oh, we need to see Gravity Blade here. And that's a Marco. I tried, man, I tried. He cannot play down another Kikinojo here. Or he can't play Kikinojo down here, sorry. Because he needs to have one Dawn attached to leader due to ability. So 4-3, potentially Nami's that can come down. Our Brule could come down. There's a lot of options. Okay, never mind, just going 9. You got it, buddy. You got it. Sure. 2 Marcos. That kind of sucks. 3 Marcos. Come on, man. Alright. I don't necessarily want to attack him and give him another S-Shark. But I realize I cannot not attack him, right? We could potentially just Marco it up here. Alright, let's do our leader ability first. That's not bad. That's not bad. If only we were at 7 Dawn instead. Or 8 Dawn instead, sorry. I don't have anything. Alright, there it goes. There's 6 left. If I attack, he takes that. Because it's better just to play the blocker and pass the turn. Which feels really awkward, but I don't have any removal for this card just yet. I need to have Dawn available to be able to bottom deck them with Gravity Blade. So potentially next turn we could attack and maybe he'll take the hit and I can bottom deck 2 cards. Plays down Nami, trashes Sanji, pops the Marco. That card is so good, by the way. I can't wait to run that in Sabo and Katakuri. It is so strong. There's not really many options, huh? And I think I need Marco on board. I think I need the blocker. So I don't need another Marco in hand. Or sorry, I don't need another Marco in hand. So I think this will be okay. I think the Fire Fist and everything else will have more value. And the 2Ks. Just saying. 6K here. I'll give you the 2. So that goes back to life. I think this turn we can start attacking. And they'll probably they'll probably pop the Marco again off of the Nami effect. Another Marco. Interesting. Man. They're making this extra hard today. But new gate, go up to 7. We still have 2 life left. We're quite healthy. The downside is if I don't swing, I waste a 7K turn. You probably didn't see this come in at all. Come on, just take the Nami. You know you want it. There's that. Sure. Yep. Like I said, we're going to keep him on board as long as we can here. I can throw away the other Marco just to get him on board here. There's another trigger for you. You're welcome. Yep. Okay. I think we're doing pretty good. We might have to like slowly stall this game out, but I think we can get there. S-Shark will go through my blockers here. If he attaches a Dawn to it, that's why I felt like attacking with Marco was probably the better choice. I can't block that attack anyway. I'd be able to block leader or whatever else he put on board in this scenario, but he still acts as a pseudo blocker here. I really don't mind all too much. Ooh, nice. The second time today, man. Gravity Blade has saved my butt off a trigger. Let's go. I mean, who's to say in this scenario, right? He could have just attached 3 Dawn to the next character, to that character there, the S-Shark, and then attached 3 to Sabo as well. And you could also put the Kid and Killer back on top of life to give S-Shark even more power. Then I would be at 0 life right now, if that's the case. I guess, right? I'll give you the 2K. Alright, so now we gotta do quick math. We could take this a little bit slow and do the Sanji Rayleigh combo, but I think he would kill us next turn if we're not able to beat him here and now. So I think we have to attach Dawn to Marco, give the Luffy a minus 2,000, so he's back down to 6. which is pretty good. But I also think we just need to go face this turn. Alright, so let's do leader ability. We'll put Newgate back on top. We'll -2 here. We have the Sanji. Plot back down the Newgate. Let's run this into here. Yep. And we can pass turn. The reason why we pass turn here is because we don't want to give him the Killing Killer. Because we have 4 cards in hand, we can't really guard a single attack here. Thankfully, we have Marco on board, so we should be okay. But without Marco, we lost the game. Or unless he has another Killing Killer in hand or ace. That's a possibility. So he takes that, puts this up there. Sure. What are you doing with it? Definitely going to kick that back to life, I would assume. Yep. Okay. Goodness. 10k here, 6 there. We have to take this hit. We can use Marco to block the leader. We can discard the Newgate to keep Marco back on board. 3 cards in hand. Okay. I think we should be able to win this turn. I think so, at the very least. So we can go 9k with lead. Depending on what he does here, I'll let us know how much we need to go for the next big hit. So 7 here. This would give him the Killing Killer, because you know you want it. Alright, guards out. Never mind. That's fine. 1 card in hand. Let's go 7 here with lead. I didn't expect him to do that, actually. This is guaranteed. So he has 2 cards in hand with no counter power, perhaps. Some Ezo. Power this up. Yep. We knew this attack would go through, considering we don't know what his 1 card is, but we did know he had Killing Killer in hand. So, he couldn't counter out of that one. And then I think if we just go 9k and then, or sorry, 10, 10, 10, or 11, 9, 10, it doesn't matter in this scenario. I think we can just win game. We don't need to bring this back. I think bringing this back doesn't really change the game output. We're not going to survive next turn anyway. Let's attach this here. Can we get there? Remember, one of those are Killing Killer. What do you do? Okay. That's fine. Do you have it? Stressful game. Very stressful game. Well played, buddy. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive into our last game today. Come at you guys with Marco playing into King from OP08, which is also another very exciting list. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to dive into too much King here in this format. This is a deck that's not doing so well in the West currently. Not that it's bad by any means, but I think Law kind of just tells his leader to go sit down somewhere. Maybe without Law, he might crop up here and there. So I'm pretty excited to see what kind of results will come up over there and over here on release day. I think the black and purple colors are pretty strong. Zephyr would definitely be a deck that you have to look out for, I think, in OP08. Because he can cook up some spicy lists. But until then, we're here playing Marco. We're having a good time until the structure decks come out. Out of the box, Marco is definitely a high B to low A tier deck. So tier 2, give or take. Tier 3, depending on how you want to look at it. This matchup in particular, I think, is going to be favored towards King, or favored towards black decks. Especially if they can stick down some really big bodies or get a lot of removal here. Because I know they run with a bunch of Kings and Kaidos. They have some pretty aggressive variants that they can build. And some of their bodies are out of reach from my Marco pop abilities, you know? Oh, that's a pretty good pudding drop, I think. Pretty solid. Push him down to 5 cards, and we got a card in hand for that guard, so we'll take it. Alright, what are you getting? That card is so good, man. I think this card is really, really strong. You can just KO up to one of your opponent's like 3 cost or lower character. Imagine, man, when you're sitting here at 6 Dawn, you drop an Ice Age, play a Who's Who, you're popping anything that has an 8 cost or under. That's insane. For 3 Dawn, by the way. Or sorry, for 4 Dawn, by the way. It's pretty good. Alright. Go 6. Our hand, again, is terrible. We have a lot of no counter cards right now, and our 4-drop Marco and Radical Beam is not going to get a lot of value until the late game. Let's go and bottom deck this. I don't want to deal with the blocker right now. Probably shouldn't, but it's okay. I probably should have just donned up the Ezos and Pudding and then swung with Marco. Got 4 attacks in there. Just try to get more cards out of hand or life, but I think that play was okay as well. We got rid of the Who's Who. Get rid of the Marco. He's at 10 Dawn. Oh, great. I was not expecting the Kuzan, to be fair. And it's not like I can do anything against it anyway, because I don't have Red Rock here in this list. Which we might have to tech in. Let this hit. Thank you. If Newgate can survive a single turn, I think we can win game. Just 1 turn. Because that's a guaranteed damage, I'd imagine. Then we can just don up the Ezo and leader and go for game. Okay, he can't survive. Well, good game, guys. I tried my best. He slapped down 2 Kuzans and he went on to next round. He's already done. Can't really do much. Go 7 lead. I mean, we have a bit of counter in hand. Just a little bit with the Radical Beam. Oh, wow. Alright. That removal is insane. I like it. It's really just Kuzan, right? Realistically, but still. I don't have the means to bottom deck him, so... Sure. 11. Another Rayleigh. Now you can argue I could go, what, 4 Dawn under Ezo, both Ezos, and put the rest on our leader, but realistically, come on now. Come on, it's not going to work. Maybe if we're lucky, we can stick Marcos on board. Maybe. Let's try double Marco drop. I think either way, we're cooked. Let's go ahead and peek real fast. See what we can find. 6 lead. Yep. Not bad. That might actually help us out a little bit. We'll put this on the bottom. And then we'll pass turn. What we got? 5k? We've got just enough counter. We have a decent amount of counter. I don't think it matters. We tried it. Double Kuzan is pretty terrifying. Imagine playing that into a deck in which does not have removal. Like, period. So a deck like Bonnie, when you're able to get down double Kuzans on that board, is probably a GG. Just like it is here. Another 10. I guess we have to guard out, right? I can't bring Marcos back either. I need at least 1 Marco to survive here. So I probably should have kept the Ezo. In hindsight. Because who's to say he doesn't split up his attacks with Queen and King and go for game with the amount of Dawn that he has left? Because potentially, if I did keep the Ezo to refresh the Marco, right? He has 2 swings. So he'd probably go 10k with King. and then the rest on Queen, which we don't have enough Dawn for either or. Oh well. Good game, buddy. We tried. Well played. Pretty spooky, not gonna lie. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the end of the video, in which today we sat down and played a bunch of games with Marco. We had a little bit of fun doing this. This is a leader in which I'm very excited to dive into once the structure decks do come out. Until then, he might be like a side deck. You know what I mean? He's not going to be your go-to deck that I'm going to take to like every single big event or just local play. For fun, yeah, he's great. Again, I don't think he's necessarily a tier 1 or tier 2 deck just yet. Until we gain access to the structure deck, when we have stuff like the new gates and some of the other very, very key pieces like Ace and stuff. Right now, this is pretty much some of your limits to what you can build with Marco. Again, this list will fluctuate depending on player, obviously. You can tack in Doflamingos here for the stacking. You can tack in Aces here for stacking. You can do a lot of stuff to this list and change it. Now, at the end of the day, this leader ability is very, very strong. And I think Marco does have an opportunity of doing well in the current format once the law goes away. And once his new cards come out. Until then, pick your poison. Because he does have some very tough matchups, being Doflamingo, Boa Hancock. Because you got to keep in mind that we're just hoping to make it to endgame to drop new gates, Sanjis, and Rayleighs. One Gravity Blade will remove your Marcos off of play into those matchups. Red Rock removes everything else. So, if we can get to that point, we're safe, we're stabilized, this deck can pop off. And you also got to keep in mind that once we gain Ace, they're not going to remove this with one card. This is simply a Basil Hawkins for red, and Ace does have that ability to have a rush effect and one Dawn attached, can swing for 7. So he's hitting numbers. I think this card would be very, very strong, let alone with the new gate that we're going to be getting here in the structure deck. I think this is going to completely change the way this deck is going to perform. Of course, today, I wanted to play with this card, but I wanted to show you guys an out-of-the-box variation of Marco and how this deck can perform in the current metagame, opposed to some of the other OP08 leaders. Now, once this card is out and we are available to use it, everything is going to change about this deck that you see here. Ratios are going to change, cards are going to change. This in himself is going to be just very, very strong. This allows you to, once per turn, activate this ability and pop one of your opponent's characters with 5,000 power or less. So be mindful, man. You're killing everything that's 7k and under just with your leader effect in new gate on board. Which is pretty terrifying. But overall, hopefully you guys did enjoy this. Let me know what you guys, your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What type of variation of Marco you guys are running for OP08. Again, just OP08 for now. This has been Pawseplays. Remember to smash the like button, make sure to subscribe for future content when it comes to all things One Piece. Remember, guys, if you like the video, man, so we can get these videos floating around. Appreciate it. I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna head out.